What's up guys, Charles here with CMC Triggers, and today we're here to show you how to do a full installation of the new 2.0 AK Elite trigger system. Alright guys, just a quick disclaimer before we jump into this. We do not consider this a drop-in trigger system. It is a modular trigger system, so some fitment might be required to get it to fit into your AK-47. So stay tuned to the end for some tips and tricks on any kind of troubleshooting issues. So let's jump into it. So you're going to receive your AK-47 trigger. It's going to have the trigger system by itself, and then it'll actually have a what we call a pin set, but it's a shepherd's hook and 2 extra screws, and we'll get into showing you what those are used for here in a second. So first thing first, you want to check and verify the firearm is clear. Firearm is clear. You're going to remove the dust cover, set it off to the side, remove the recoil spring, and remove your bolt carrier group. So now your trigger assembly is exposed. So first thing you want to do is rotate the safety up. You may have to depress the trigger to get it out of the way. Set your safety off to the side. We like to use a little hook. Take your spring, wrap it around your hammer spring, your hammer. And we use a bread tie. You can use a zip tie, a rubber band, something to tie around the springs just so they don't come back and sling and hit you. So wrap that around. And you're going to remove your retaining plate or shepherd's hook depending on the AK that you have. After that, you are going to take a punch, remove the hammer pin, remove the trigger pin. Take the hammer, just twist and pull straight out. Trigger just slips right out the top. So now you have it completely empty and you're ready to put in the new AK 2.0 trigger. First thing first, the AK trigger does have a spring retaining pin. So it is spring activated, so you have to push this in and push up on each side to remove the trigger system out of the housing. And you just push up from the bottom, careful that this pin doesn't come popping out at you, and remove the trigger assembly itself. The trigger spring on the bottom is retained by grease, so if this does fall out, you just put a little dab of grease and put the spring back in. Now you have the housing and hammer. Slip it in through the rear, slide that into place. And now here's something a little different with our particular trigger system. You have to put the safety in before you put the trigger system in. So add the safety lever. You're going to rotate this down and out of the way. I like to over rotate it and just push the safety shoe completely out of the way. Now what I like to do is just push this pin flush to one side, add it down into the housing. You take a flathead screwdriver, push that spring in, pops in, and push it all the way down until it completely seats. Yep, completely seated. Now you're going to do is lock the hammer back to the rear, and now you're ready to install the actual trigger pins themselves. I like to start with the hammer pin first. Slide it in. Slide in your trigger pin. Sometimes the pins need a little love tap with a hammer. There it goes. Now it's completely installed. So now you're going to have your shepherd's hook and the 2 extra screws. I like to install the shepherd's hooks first. So take your shepherd's hook. So make sure that this little kick up here goes up underneath the trigger pin. You push it as far back as you can get it. I like to use a flathead screwdriver to help me assist it all the way back. Just slide it back. So it's all the way in place, just like that. So now your trigger's completely installed and ready for the last step. So you have 3 set screws. You got 2 up front and 1 in the rear. So the 2 set screws are designed, depending on your AK platform, this chassis can slide back and forth. So this is designed to lock it down into place. So you just snug these down and then snug the rear down. Make sure the safety works. Trigger doesn't fire. So now you have the 2 extra set screws that are left in the bag. Those are designed to go up front on the 2 set screw portions up front, just to hold that screw in. Now that hole is drilled and tapped at an angle to get around these slide rails. So just keep that in mind when you actually go to screw them in. That's all you want to do is just snug it down on both sides. Okay, snug down. Now you're ready to go. So you're ready to assemble the actual rifle. Put your bolt back in place. Recoil spring. Dust cover. So again, checking rifle is clear. Rifle is clear. Safety on, no fire. Safety off, fire. Reset, fire, reset, fire. There you have it, guys. All right, for your very first tip, the one thing that we get contacted on is pin alignment issues. So it could be a couple different variants of things going on in the receiver that's causing pin alignment issues. The main thing that we always normally see is just the chassis inside not being squared up in the inside. So just pushing the chassis around, we can actually get the pin to actually seat. The other issue that we'll see, sometimes that hole is just a little bit tight going through, and sometimes, most of the time, it just needs a little bit of a tap. A little left tap in the back of the pin with a punch and a hammer, it'll seat right through and sit and be perfect. So the next issue that we see is the rivet that's holding on the trigger guard here on the back. We're gonna get you in a little bit tighter, show you what I'm talking about, and show you actually how to fix that issue. All right, so this little rivet right here, depending on your platform, sometimes is a little bit too tall, and you have 2 options here. So if it is a little bit too tall and it's hitting back here on the back of the chassis, which is not allowing it to go down far enough for you to get the pin to seat, so you have 2 options. The first option is you can take material out of the rivet, but what I like to do is just take a file like so and put on that back part right there up against that ledge and take some licks out of it. And a lot of times it doesn't take much, but if you're just bringing this surface down, do a test fit the pins. As soon as you get the pin to seat, lock it into place, do the full installation, and you're done. All right, so let's touch on safeties. So there's a lot of different variances of safety levers out there in the market. If you ever have a safety like this with the roll pin setup, it will not work with our trigger system. It sits too far to one side and it goes just right along the trigger and doesn't work. So you might have to replace a safety, worst case worse. So a couple of troubleshooting tips. So if your safety is just not going up and it's super stiff, first thing first, you want to just back that little back set screw off, quarter turn at a time, until you can get it to rotate over it. It's nice and smooth, just how you like it. Even if that back set screw is all the way out or all the way up and you're still having that issues, a lot of times or sometimes we'll see we actually have to take a couple licks with the file off the bottom edge of the safety to get it to go over it. Super quick, easy fix for that. Every now and again I've run into a couple rifles where that safety tip there is actually too short from the factory, and in those standpoints you'll also have to just replace the safety with a brand new safety lever. So those are our main issues for the safeties. All right, so the last tip that we have for you today, some things that we come across, again, depending on your variant of AK, is every bolt is a little bit different on this bottom side here that interacts with our actual hammer. So sometimes these are a little bit too thick straight from the manufacturer of the AK. So every now and again when you go to put your bolt in, it won't actually rotate over the actual trigger assembly itself. So when that happens, what the factory does suggest is this little piece right here, this little square piece on the face of the hammer. You actually might have to take a little bit of material off the face of the hammer until you can get that bolt to go in and seat and go over it comfortably and cycle fine without it binding up. Again, remember, all CMC products are backed by a lifetime warranty with it. So even if you got a little bit overzealous, give us a call. We'll take care of it. We'll get it fixed and replaced for you. All right, there you have it, guys. There is a full install on the AK 2.0 trigger. If you have any questions or you still need some tips or any tricks or anything like that, reach out to info@cmctriggers.com and we'll take care of you. And we'll see you next time.